Picture this. It is a gray Wednesday morning in Washington, D.C. Today is February 4th, 2026. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is preparing to walk into an emergency room, the Critical Minerals Summit. Outside, the black SUVs are lined up inside. It smells like stale coffee and fear. Why? Because while these officials are busy drafting eloquent speeches about supply chain resilience, the electronic boards in Shanghai are laughing in their faces. The spot price of silver this morning did not collapse as they prayed. It is sitting arrogantly at $8,855 an ounce. What a bitter irony yesterday. The Western banks incinerated billions of dollars in paper derivatives to smash the price, hoping to save some face for their fiat currency. But all they managed to do was create a massive Black Friday discount event for the only solvent buyer left at the table, China. I need you to put down your coffee right now. If you are watching this from an apartment in New York or stuck in traffic in rainy London, listen very closely, because what I am about to say is not a financial report. It is an obituary for Western arrogance. We are not talking about charts anymore. We are talking about a superpower trying to repeal the laws of mathematics with committee meetings. Where are you watching this from? Let me know in the comments below if you are watching from a solvent country or a bankrupt one. We need to stop talking about politics and start talking about physics. In the financial world, there is a force stronger than gravity, and that force is arbitrage. While the bureaucrats in Washington are arranging their name placards and checking their microphones, a massive silent vacuum cleaner has been turned on inside the global vault system. Can you hear it? It is the sound of wealth leaving the West. It is the sound of the United States bleeding out its strategic future, bar by bar, flight by flight. Let us look at the mechanism that Marco Rubio is terrified of. It is not a secret weapon. It is a simple calculator error. It is a simple calculator error. Yesterday, the computer algorithms in New York smashed the paper price of silver down to the mid-80s. They thought they were being clever. They thought they were painting a picture of weakness to scare you out of your position. But in Shanghai, the price did not blink. Here is the math that is keeping the bullion bankers awake at night. In China, the physical premium on silver is hovering around 29% when you add the 13% value-added tax and the replacement costs. The real price of silver inside the Chinese border is trading at roughly $120 per ounce. Now look at your screen. The spot price in New York is roughly $88. Do the subtraction. 1 to 8. That leaves a gap of roughly $32 to $34 in the world of high finance. We call this an arbitrage spread, but let us be honest about what it really is. It is free money. It is an infinite money glitch. Think about this like a criminal mastermind. If you could buy a bar of gold in London for $88 and sell it immediately in Shanghai for $120, how many bars would you buy? The answer is all of them. You would buy every single bar you could get your hands on. You would empty the warehouse. You would sell the shelves. You would sell the dust on the floor. And that is exactly what is happening right now. This is the vacuum. The Western central planners, in their infinite arrogance, have suppressed the price so low that they have effectively put their entire national inventory on a clearance sale. They hung a giant neon sign over the comics vaults that says everything must go 30% off. And the Chinese buyers are not stupid. They are backing up the dump trucks. But here is the twist that makes this a true tragedy. Who is driving those dump trucks? It is not Chinese spies. It is American and British banks, the big bullion banks, the JP Morgans, the HSBC, the institutions that are supposed to be the pillars of the Western financial system. They are the ones executing these trades. Why? Because they have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders to make a profit. They do not care about national security. They do not care if the United States runs out of silver for its cruise missiles. They see a $34 risk-free profit on every ounce, and they are taking it. They are chartering the armored planes. They are draining the London Bullion Market Association vaults. We are tracking the flight paths, heavy cargo flights leaving London, Heathrow, and JFK. International stopping in Switzerland to refine the bars and landing in Shanghai. Why Switzerland? This is the part that hurts. The bars leaving the West are often 40-year-old good delivery bars stamped with the seals of American refineries that do not even exist anymore. They are pieces of history when they land in Switzerland. They are melted down. The American eagle is erased. The story is deleted. They are recast into 1-kilogram bars with Chinese characters 49s. Fine. Once that metal enters the Shanghai Gold Exchange, it is gone. It is dematerialized from the Western ledger. It can never be rehypothecated to back a paper contract in New York. It has crossed the event horizon. So when Marco Rubio sits down at his summit tomorrow to discuss protecting critical minerals, he is fighting a war that was lost yesterday. You cannot legislate away a $34 profit margin. You cannot stop water from flowing downhill with a piece of paper. As long as this gap exists, the vacuum will run. It will run until there is nothing left to suck up the State Department. Thinks they are fighting a trade war. They are wrong. They are being liquidated. The West is selling its incinerated policy against currency collapse to its greatest geopolitical rival for pennies on the dollar. And the funniest part, the United States government is subsidizing the sale by keeping the price artificially low. They are literally paying China to take their silver. This is not a market correction. This is a wealth transfer of biblical proportions, and it is happening right under your nose, disguised as a boring day on the commodities exchange. If silver is the ammunition in this economic war, then gold is the nuclear arsenal, and while we have been watching the skirmishes in the silver market, the real weapon of mass destruction has been sitting in silence, hidden in the dark. Waiting for the command to launch, we need to talk about the silence in the world of intelligence. Silence is not empty. Silence is where the data hides for the past 2 decades. The People's Bank of China has been playing a game of smoke and mirrors that would make a Las Vegas illusionist blush. Look at the official numbers on paper. Beijing claims to hold just over 2,000 tons of gold, a modest number. A respectable number, but a number that is frankly an insult to the intelligence of anyone who can use a calculator. Let us conduct a forensic audit of this lie right now. Let us strip away the diplomatic pleasantries and look at the raw industrial data. China has been the world's largest producer of gold for over a decade. They mine roughly 400 tons of yellow metal out of their own soil every single year, and here is the statistic that matters. Exports are effectively zero. They do not sell it. They keep every single gram. Now do the math with me. 400 tons. A year multiplied by 20 years, that is 8,000 tons, right? They're just from domestic mining. That is already 4 times their official number, but we are just getting started. We track the import data. We watch the flows coming in through Hong Kong. We watch the direct shipments into Shanghai. We watch the output from Swiss refineries. That work double shifts to recast Western bars into Chinese kilobars. Conservative estimates from forensic analysts suggest that another 20 tons have flowed into the mainland since the year 2002. So where is it? Where did nearly 30,000 tons of physical gold go? It did not vanish. Gold does not evaporate. It went into the shadow ledger. This is the concept you need to understand, to survive what is coming. The shadow ledger is a system of off-balance sheet accounts managed not by the central bank directly, but by proxies. We are talking about the state administration of foreign exchange. We are talking about the sovereign wealth funds, and most importantly, we are talking about the People's Liberation Army. Why hide it? Why would a country obsessed with status and power hide its greatest asset? Because of the oldest rule in the Book of Strategy. Sun Tzu wrote, "When you are strong, appear weak." If China had announced they were buying thousands of tons 10 years ago, the price would have skyrocketed. They would have had to pay $2,000, $3,000, maybe $5,000 an ounce. They did not want to pay that. They wanted to buy at the bottom, so they created a deception. They let the Western banks suppress the price. They let the Federal Reserve talk about a strong dollar. They let the bullion banks in London smash the paper price with derivatives, and every time the price dropped, China bought more. They used the Western suppression scheme as a subsidy program. For their own accumulation, they spent 20 years draining the West's wealth at a discount. But now the accumulation phase is ending. The vaults are full, the vacuum tubes are humming, and we are approaching the moment of the reveal. Ever heard of a financial military parade? Well, one is happening right now, and it could reshape the world's economy. On one side, you have the United States with its massive national debt, which recently surpassed $34 trillion. On the other side, China has been on a gold-buying spree, stockpiling the precious metal for over 18 consecutive months. Why is this a big deal? For decades, the US dollar has been the king of global currencies, backed by the strength of the US economy. But as US debt grows, some countries are getting nervous. By buying gold, a timeless store of value, China is signaling a move away from relying solely on the dollar. This isn't just about numbers. It's a strategic shift in global power. What do you think this means for the future? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights. This shadow ledger is not just a savings account. It is a trap. It is a geopolitical bear trap set for the United States Treasury. When that number is revealed, the bond market collapses. If the yuan is backed by gold, and the dollar is backed by promises from a bankrupt government, who buys United States Treasury bonds? Nobody. Interest rates in the United States would have to spike to double digits just to attract capital. The stock market would implode. The banking system would freeze. It would be a heart attack for the American economy, and China knows this. They have built this weapon for 20 years. They have assembled it, piece by piece, bar by bar, right under the noses of the arrogant Western bankers who were too busy collecting their quarterly bonuses to notice they were digging their own graves. The article published yesterday in the Communist Party Journal was the warning shot. It was the sound of the engine starting. The parade is about to begin. The tanks are not made of steel. They are made of 99.99% fine gold, and they are aimed directly at the heart of the fiat dollar system. This is why the price of gold is sitting at $4,900 and refusing to drop. The market smells the parade. The smart money knows that the shadow ledger is real. They know that when the light is finally turned on in that dark room, we are going to see a mountain of metal so large it will dwarf everything we thought we knew about money. We are witnessing the end of the paper era. The history books will record this month as the turning point, the moment the paper tiger burned and the golden dragon woke up. While the bankers in London are obsessed with the price of gold as a currency, there's a much more terrifying reality unfolding in the industrial parks of the world. We need to leave the trading desks and walk onto the factory floor, because this is where the theoretical meets the physical. And the physical news is this: the cupboard is bare. For the past 5 years, the silver market has been running a structural deficit. This is not a temporary glitch. This is a mathematical certainty. We have been consuming more silver than we dig out of the ground every single year. We have bridged that gap by eating into the above-ground stockpiles. We drained the vaults, we melted down grandmother's silverware, we recycled old electronics. But you can only eat your emergency rations for so long before you starve. And right now, the industrial world is staring at an empty plate. Let us look at the solar industry. This is the darling of the Western governments. Every politician wants a Green New Deal. They want solar panels on every roof from California to Berlin, but they forgot to check the periodic table of elements. You cannot build a high-efficiency solar panel without silver paste. It is the conductor, it is the vein that carries the electricity. For years, the industry tried to thrift it away. They tried to use copper, they tried to use less silver, but physics fought back. To get higher efficiency, to make the new TOPCon and HJT cells that the market demands, you actually need more silver per unit, not less. So here is the irony. The more successful the green revolution becomes, the faster it kills the silver supply. We are projected to consume hundreds of millions of ounces this year, just for photovoltaics. That is nearly 20% of the entire global supply swallowed by one single industry. And guess who dominates the manufacturing of those panels? China. They are not just hoarding the metal, they are dominating the finished product. But the crisis goes deeper than solar. We need to talk about the military-industrial complex. This is the real reason Marco Rubio is holding an emergency summit. It is not about the stock market, it is about the guidance system on a Tomahawk missile. It is about the contacts in an F-35 fighter jet. It is about the satellites that guide the drones. Every single piece of modern military hardware requires silver. It is the most conductive metal in the universe. It does not corrode, it does not spark, it is irreplaceable. You cannot print a circuit board, you cannot financialize a torpedo. You need the physical metal. And here is the nightmare scenario for the Pentagon. The United States Department of Defense does not have a strategic stockpile of silver. We sold it decades ago to suppress the price. So now, when Lockheed Martin needs silver to build missiles to deter China, they have to go to the open market. And who is buying up the open market? China. Let us look at the solar industry. This is the darling of the Western governments. Every politician wants a Green New Deal. They want solar panels on every roof from California to Berlin, but they forgot to check the periodic table of elements. You cannot build a high-efficiency solar panel without silver paste. It is the conductor, it is the vein that carries the electricity. For years, the industry tried to thrift it away. They tried to use copper, they tried to use less silver, but physics fought back. To get higher efficiency, to make the new TOPCon and HJT cells that the market demands, you actually need more silver per unit, not less. So here is the irony. The more successful the green revolution becomes, the faster it kills the silver supply. We are projected to consume hundreds of millions of ounces this year, just for photovoltaics. That is nearly 20% of the entire global supply swallowed by one single industry. And guess who dominates the manufacturing of those panels? China. They are not just hoarding the metal, they are dominating the finished product. But the crisis goes deeper than solar. We need to talk about the military-industrial complex. This is the real reason Marco Rubio is holding an emergency summit. It is not about the stock market, it is about the guidance system on a Tomahawk missile. It is about the contacts in an F-35 fighter jet. It is about the satellites that guide the drones. Every single piece of modern military hardware requires silver. It is the most conductive metal in the universe. It does not corrode, it does not spark, it is irreplaceable. You cannot print a circuit board, you cannot financialize a torpedo. You need the physical metal. And here is the nightmare scenario for the Pentagon. The United States Department of Defense does not have a strategic stockpile of silver. We sold it decades ago to suppress the price. So now, when Lockheed Martin needs silver to build missiles to deter China, they have to go to the open market. And who is buying up the open market? China. The bullion banks know this. That is why they are playing the arbitrage. But the industrial users are just starting to panic. When Apple and Tesla start buying silver directly from the mines to secure their supply chains, the game is over. The paper price becomes irrelevant. The COMEX becomes a museum. We are standing on the edge of a precipice. The inventory is gone. The deficits are structural. The geopolitical rival is hoarding the supply, and the demand is exponential. This is not a bubble. This is a vacuum. And nature abhors a vacuum. The price has to rise. It has to rise high enough to force people to melt down their jewelry. It has to rise high enough to make mining profitable again. But you cannot open a new mine in a day. It takes 10 years. So for the next decade, the world is going to be fighting over the scraps. This is the empty cupboard. Marco Rubio can hold all the summits he wants. He can sign executive orders. He can scream at the rain. But he cannot conjure silver out of thin air. The metal is gone, and the price is about to reflect that reality. We have connected the dots. We have listened to the signal from President Xi regarding the powerful currency. We have analyzed the $34 vacuum that is draining the West of its lifeblood. We have witnessed the panic in Washington as Secretary Rubio tries to build a NATO for metals to stop the bleeding. And we have seen the price recover back above $88, proving that the market psychology is unbreakable. The board is set for checkmate. All that is left is for you to decide where you want to stand when the announcement hits. Do you want to be holding paper dollars that are losing a geopolitical war, or do you want to be holding the asset that China is vying to replace them? Here is the final verdict. The United States played its final card on Tuesday. They used the Kevin Warsh narrative and a massive paper dump to try and break the silver market. They wanted to scare you. They wanted to crush the price. They wanted to save the dollar. But all they accomplished was putting the world's most strategic asset on a clearance sale for their enemies. The United States smashed the paper price. China said thank you. And then China backed up the truck and bought the physical dip. Now the vaults in New York and London are emptying at record speed. The river of silver is flowing east, and it is never coming back. The State Department knows what comes next. They know that by March, if this flow continues, the COMEX will be a hollow shell. They know that Pax Silica, the American dominance of the technology supply chain, is dead. This leaves us with 3 possible scenarios. You need to prepare for all of them. Scenario A is the capital control lockdown. This is what Marco Rubio is likely planning right now. The government declares silver a strategic metal. They ban exports. They make it illegal to ship bullion to Shanghai. It sounds strong, but it is the desperate act of a dying regime. If they do this, the global market fractures. The price in Shanghai will disconnect completely from New York. Silver in China will go to $200, while silver in New York sits frozen at 88, but you will not be able to buy it at 88. The dealers will be empty. The black market will explode. Scenario B is the market reset. This is the most likely outcome. The United States realizes it cannot stop the flow, so it capitulates. They let the price rise. To close the arbitrage, gap silver in New York rockets from $88 to $120, then $150. They devalue the dollar to save the inventory. If you are holding physical metal, your purchasing power triples overnight. Scenario C is the systemic failure. This is the force majeure event. The COMEX admits it has no metal left to deliver. They declare a liquidation-only emergency. They force all long contract holders to settle for cash instead of metal. This is the moment the paper market dies. The price of physical silver in your hand becomes infinite relative to the paper contract. Because the paper contract becomes a worthless promising, all 3 scenarios. The loser is the person holding fiat currency, or paper derivatives. The winner is the person holding physical gravity. So this is your second chance. The crash, on Tuesday, gave you a brief window to buy silver at a discount subsidized by the stupidity of the central planners. Do not waste it. Do not let the volatility shake you out. The squeeze is not over. It is just beginning. The financial military parade is about to start, and you want to be holding the asset that is sitting on the lead float. Ignore the paper. Trust the flow. The East is buying. The West is panicking. The price is rising. Do not listen to the noise on the television. Listen to the sound of the planes taking off for Shanghai. That is the sound of truth. If you need the full breakdown of the data sources and the specific mining stocks that are positioned to survive this transition, I have linked the full dossier in the description below. It contains the flight logs, the arbitrage calculations, and the watch list. Do not trust my words. Trust the weight of the metal in your hand. Stay safe.